my real weight loss journey. I'm Richard Greenland, and today we're going to talk about how to measure and track your progress. We're going to start with tracking just because it's easier to talk about. The reason it's easier to talk about is because there's just so many options out there. You could start tracking just in a notebook, just grab a notebook or a journal or something, just start writing it down. You could use your computer, say open up, say, Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets and just put a spreadsheet. Just create a spreadsheet there and just keep track of it that way. You can even create graphs that way, etc. You could also use an app on your phone or even an app on the computer. Some apps are available on a computer. Typically, most people nowadays use an app for any weight loss stuff. And it's usually on the phone because most people have their phone with them all the time. And so it's easy just to take it out and enter in whatever progress you're making just whenever you need to. Apps are also designed with weight loss in mind. They're specific for that. And so they typically have everything already there. All the different fields, anything else that you need, the different options, it's all there. If you use a notebook or a spreadsheet, you're going to have to create all that, put in the columns, everything. A notebook, you'd have to draw it all out. So it's a bit more work. One thing that a notebook is really good at, though, is for journaling. If you're keeping track, for example, of how you feel when you're eating something, or what the circumstances are, or why you ate a certain thing. That's something that notebooks are really good at. Apps kind of have that a little bit, but they don't have it as much. It's not quite as fleshed out as a lot of the other stuff in the apps. So let's talk about some popular weight loss apps. We've got Lose It, Fat Secret, MyFitnessPal. All of those have free options and paid options. Usually the free version is sufficient for anything you'd need. The paid versions typically add a few extra things that are usually not required, but might make your life a little easier. Currently, I'm using the paid version of MyFitnessPal, but I'm not paying for it just because I found a code at the beginning of this year that gave me a 3-month free trial. So by the end of March, I'll probably just let it go into the free mode and just do that because honestly, it's nice to have the paid mode. There's a few extra features that are nice, but they're not deal breakers. I don't have to have them for this app to work well. So there are also apps that include an entire weight loss program in them. For example, Noom or Weight Watchers. I guess they're called WW now instead of Weight Watchers. Not sure why. But anyways, those typically require a monthly or a yearly fee. It's a subscription model, and you just have to pay that in order to even use the app at all. I did use Noom a couple years ago for a few months, and I did lose a decent amount of weight, but over time, it was just too expensive, and I just kind of got tired of the app. It's that the Noom app just isn't as fleshed out as some other apps, especially MyFitnessPal, which I use right now. And towards the end of using Noom, I found myself entering all my stuff twice. I'd enter it into Noom first and then MyFitnessPal because I wanted to still be on the Noom program and everything and working with them. But I wanted to have the extra data and the more accurate calorie counts and stuff like that you find in MyFitnessPal. So it kind of just became too much. Anyways, the last type of app you'll often find is one that's tied to a fitness tracker. So this could be a Fitbit, Apple Watch. I personally have a Garmin watch, fitness tracker. It's how I keep track of my steps. I really like my watch. I really love how it can keep track of steps and activities, heart rate, things like that. And that's typically what those kind of devices and apps do really well is all those fitness type things. They keep track of really well. If they keep track of calories at all, or weight or anything like that, any of the progress stuff, they usually don't do a very good job of it. There may be some exceptions. I'm not really familiar with the Apple Watch and what they have built into that. That might be a better one. I'm not sure. But generally speaking, if it's something with a device, it's going to be not quite as good at the progress and much better at the fitness. So personally, I use both. I use my Garmin watch and its app to keep track of the fitness side of things, and I use the MyFitnessPal app to keep track of calories, weight, other things like that, all my major progress. So I've mentioned MyFitnessPal quite a bit here. I've tried a number of weight loss apps, and I keep coming back to MyFitnessPal. It just seems to work the best, has the most options. Even the paid version isn't too expensive if you want to go that way. I think it's like $50 a year, which sounds kind of expensive, but it's over a full year, so it's cheaper than Netflix or anything like that. And this is actually helping you. But like I said, you really don't need the paid version. It's really good even just with the free version. So I'm going to go ahead and go over a little bit of what you'd find in MyFitnessPal, since that seems to be one of the most popular apps out there for losing weight. When I do this, just a disclaimer, I'm not getting paid for any of this. MyFitnessPal didn't reach out to me or anything and say, hey, can you do a review or anything like that. In fact, I'll probably end up doing a more detailed review in a later video. Right now, we're just going to go over the progress tracking parts of it. But, if MyFitnessPal does want to reach out to me and pay me for it, in the future, sure, I'll accept that. But as of right now, you can know that I'm not doing this because I'm getting paid or anything. I'm doing this because I actually think this app is really good. So I'm not biased or anything as far as being paid for it. It's just the app is good. So I encourage everyone to use it, or if you decide you don't like this one, use a different one. I don't really care which one you use. I just think that this is a really good one. So let's go ahead and take a look at the app here for a little bit. So here is the home screen for the MyFitnessPal app. This app has a lot of different things you can do in it. We're not going to talk about the diary, like where you can enter your food or the recipes or plans or anything like that. We're just going to talk about how to track your progress in this app. So the easiest way is down in the bottom right-hand corner. You've got that plus sign there. Just hit that. It opens up and lets you add any number of things here, but the one we want to talk about is weight. So we hit weight, and it brings you up to this add weight screen. You can just enter in the amount right there at the top. Then you can change the date if you need to. If, for example, you forgot to do it yesterday, or you forgot to enter it yesterday, you still remember what the number was, you can change the date and put the correct one in. It also lets you put in a progress photo. So you can take a picture either of the scale or of yourself, whichever you feel most comfortable doing. So once you're done entering that information, just hit the check mark in the upper right-hand corner, and it brings you to this screen. This is the progress screen. Let me just show you really quick one other way to get to this progress screen. If you're on the home page, you can hit the menu item, the 3 lines there in the top left corner, and then go to progress. And then we come back to the screen. So in here, you've got a number of things. You've got the option to share stuff on the right side there. And you also notice you've got a camera icon to the right of today's date. And that means that you can just add a photo, just like you could when you were entering the weight. And below that, you've actually got these little image icons. You can add an image or import a photo is what it allows you to do. With the camera one, it gives you the option to import a photo or take a picture. It just doesn't let you take a picture for past dates because, of course, any picture you take would be now. So that wouldn't be accurate as far as past dates go. And this does go quite a ways. I think it just keeps it forever. But it's got the history there, so if you need to, you can go back and check it. Also, the graph at the top here, this graph, let's look at the top right-hand corner. You got 1 week right now is what I've got it set at. If you tap that, though, you've got a bunch of different periods from 1 week, 1 month to everything. I wish they had some periods between the week and the month, because I'd love to have, like, say, 2 weeks or maybe 3 weeks. But as far as keeping track of your own weight, this works just fine. For me, I would like to have the 1.5 or 2 weeks or something like that, just for the purposes of showing you guys when I'm doing my progress updates. So I don't use this anymore for progress updates on my videos. I use something else, but at least I do have this, so for a quick glance, just to see how I'm doing, it works perfectly fine. So let's check the other one, the weight in the top left-hand corner. If you tap that, it comes up with different things you can use for measurements. So you could measure your weight, which is the most common one that most people do, but you can also measure steps, your neck circumference, your waist circumference, hips, chest, etc. So there's all those that you can do. Right now, I only currently do weight, but it's definitely possible to do the others. And maybe I'll do that in the future. We will be talking a little bit about that in the second half of this video when we talk about how and what to measure instead of the tracking portion. But that'll be a little later. For now, I do want to show you one other thing in this app. Let's go back. If you hit the plus again, you do have a status up here. So if you hit that status, you can actually type in kind of like a journal entry. This is really good, especially if you're doing some emotional eating and you want to list, when you're stressed or, sad or lonely or bored or whatever it happens to be, whatever's causing you to overeat, you can put that in here. So that's just another thing that they have in this app. So there's MyFitnessPal. I do like this app quite a bit, but you can use other apps too. This just happens to be the one I have and I like. All right, so let's go ahead and talk now about how and what to measure. Weight, of course, is the big thing. I mean, we're trying to lose weight, so we need to keep track of it so we know what we're doing. So with the weight, stepping on a scale can be scary sometimes, especially for those of us that are overweight or obese. We worry that number is going to go up. We really don't want to see those numbers. A lot of times we'd rather just be ignorant of it and hope it goes away. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen. Not usually. Usually you have to be actively doing something in order to lose weight. So it's important to realize that even though weight is important in measuring, it's only one part of a weight loss journey. It doesn't define us as people. It's just part of us, but it's not all of us. Once we realize that, it gets a little bit easier to accept the numbers on the scale for what they are, just as one measurement of who we are. And we don't get down on ourselves for that. Our obesity doesn't define us. A lot of other things define us. We're not one-dimensional people or characters or creatures or whatever you want to call it. We have a lot of dimensions. And so, don't be scared of the weight. It's important to keep track of it so you know what you're doing. So maybe because of the fear of the scale, a lot of people don't like to weigh themselves daily. Some people say, I should weigh myself weekly or monthly or something like that. I'm a very strong advocate of weighing yourself daily. There's a couple good reasons for that. First, in order to be losing weight, you have to have an idea of where you're at. If you were driving a car across the country, and you just started out and you started going, you'd much rather know early in your trip that you made a wrong turn than much later when you could be way off. I mean, one little turn here could make you be miles and miles and miles off later on. And so you need to have that feedback to tell you if you're getting off. For weight loss, you'd much rather know early on that your weight's going up than when you've already gained 5 pounds. It's much better to catch it when you've gained half a pound or a pound than to wait until 5 pounds and then realize, oh no, I need to go and start doing something. So that's one reason why you need to weigh yourself daily. Two, weight fluctuates normally throughout the day, throughout the week. We need to be trying to weigh ourselves the same time every day, and we need to be consistent in how we weigh ourselves, what the situation is, the circumstances, all that. For example, I weigh myself every morning right around 7 o'clock. It doesn't have to be right on 7 o'clock. It can be a little bit before, a little bit after, but it needs to be fairly close to that same time. Also, I make sure that I've already gone to the bathroom before I weigh myself, but I make sure I have not eaten breakfast. That way I should be at basically the lowest weight that I will be the entire day. I've emptied everything out of my system and I haven't brought in new stuff. And if I do that, that would kind of be cheating, you would think, because I'm just trying, I'm gaming the system to be the lowest I can be. But the thing is, we don't care about what the individual weights are. We care about the progress. And so if you do it the same way each and every day, then it's going to be accurate. You're going to go, from the same situation to the same situation the next day. Instead of, for example, if you were weighing yourself one day right after you'd had a big breakfast, and the next day you weigh yourself before you even eat breakfast, of course you're going to weigh less, because if you weigh yourself after the breakfast, you've just put on, a pound or 2 or 3 pounds if it's a really big breakfast. And so it's going to be bigger. And so the next day when you weigh before the breakfast, you're going to be quite a bit lighter. At least everything else being everything else being equal throughout the day. So you want to be consistent. That's the important part. Also, one other thing with that is I do always make sure I'm wearing about the same kind of clothes. I typically wear shorts and a t-shirt to bed. And so, when I wake up in the morning, I just keep that on until I get to the point where I'm ready to weigh myself, and I end up, eating breakfast and showering and everything after that. And so that helps out too. Some people, decide that they want to weigh themselves naked. That's fine if you want to do that. A lot of us that are overweight don't really have a healthy body image of, we don't want to see ourselves naked as much as possible. So I personally just weigh myself with my clothes on. I just keep the clothes basically the same every day, as close to the same as possible. Now, that being said, even when you're trying to be consistent, there are going to be some days that it's going to be off. For example, maybe you'll sleep in one day and weigh yourself later in the day. Or maybe you're going to have to wake up earlier and weigh yourself earlier. Maybe you're wearing slightly heavier clothes one day. Maybe you're constipated and you haven't been able to get rid of that food from from the day before. Or maybe the day before you had too much sodium intake, and so your body is holding on to water. Any of those things can cause your weight to be off. And so you might think, well, if that's the case, if it can be off that much every day, then why would we weigh ourselves every day? Well, that's precisely the reason why we have to weigh ourselves every day. Because what if your weight is going down most of the week, and then you just happen to weigh yourself, if you're only weighing yourself once a week, you happen to weigh yourself on the day that one of these things happened, and so it shows a higher weight than normal, and so all of a sudden you get discouraged because your weight is higher than normal. Where if you'd seen the weights from the entire week, you'd notice that, oh yeah, I'm making pretty good progress, but I just had this one bad day. And so it's better to have that average and the graph. You've all seen my weight loss graphs when I do my progress updates, and some of those can be real roller coasters. But generally speaking, I'm generally going down. And that's the main thing. When I see that, I can see, okay, this is what I did. I can, if I'm keeping a journal, which I'm not really keeping a journal right now, I'm just kind of keeping track in my head, which I should probably keep a journal better. But anyways, if I were doing that, I could equate those, the jumps or the rises in weight with certain foods I'd eaten or certain circumstances I was in, things like that. And that would help me with being able to figure out what works best for me. So that's weight. It's probably the most important thing to measure when you're trying to lose weight, but it's not the only thing. It's especially important when people start exercising. Our weight loss can sometimes plateau. It just kind of stays the same because what's happening is you're still getting healthier, but you're gaining muscle from your exercise and losing fat. Muscle is heavier than fat, and so you end up not really losing weight, and sometimes you might even gain a little bit of weight. Even though you're getting healthier, that number on the scale is not really going down. And there are a number of things you can do to get that number going down again. We'll talk about that in another video. But for now, I just want to talk about things you can do as far as tracking your progress when that happens. While your weight is plateaued, you can always, and any other time too, you can always use other measurements. For example, in the video that we were looking at earlier on the cell phone there, in the MyFitnessPal app, you saw that it kept track of a number of different things like neck circumference, chest circumference, waist, things like that. basically you can measure any of those things, and if you wanted to get smaller or bigger or whatever, you can compare them with previous measurements. Another thing with that is that you can check on how your clothes fit. If your clothes fits more loosely, that's a good sign. If you're fitting into clothes that you weren't able to fit into before, that's a great sign. Um, Also, another big indicator of getting healthier is how much energy you have, or being able to do things that you weren't able to do before. That's huge. That's one of the main reasons I want to lose weight, is so I can do stuff without getting tired all the time. It's more than just physical measurements that can show our progress too. For example, if you have a more positive opinion of yourself, of your body image, that's great. That's amazing. If you have fewer episodes of the blues or even depression, that's also a good sign. Losing weight can do that for us. Having more self-control, not giving in to the temptation of the food as much, that's a great mark of progress. So honestly, losing weight is hard. It's definitely easier to just eat everything you want to eat, not exercise, just watch TV, play video games, etc. It's a lot harder to actually start exercising, start watching what you eat, and all that. But then again, it's also hard to live an unhealthy life. You've got all the complications. You can start getting diabetes or heart issues or other things like that, and that's not easy either. So choose your hard. Life is going to be hard whichever way you look at it. So choose the hard you want and go for it. Um, you know, Keep at it. You can do it. We can do this together. Thanks.